How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning, afternoon, slash evening, whenever and whenever you're watching this. I'm your boy, the HOD of the PSP. Welcome to episode 80 of the podcast. Let's celebrate this episode and this milestone in the show by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates. And of course, follow us on social media site, PSP on Twitter, page site, on Instagram, and listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, already other platform. Of course, join us for more, and you're absolutely welcome. Let's start, I think, from where we should start this episode, and of course, talking about the Champions League. We continue, of course, on to round of 16. The last of the first leg matches was played on Wednesday. 2 matches were played, of course, and we start from Bergamo quickly. We're going to be talking about Atalanta versus Real Madrid. I'm not thinking, and again, I'm not saying more. As I said in the review, this game I think revolves around the red card pretty much, and really goes back and forth about the idea of the red card and how the red card affected the game. But even considering that, Atalanta with 10 men, I think they defended really well. The game isn't going to be easy in Madrid for Real Madrid. Don't get it wrong, don't get it twisted really. This is not going to be an easy game for Real Madrid because God knows Atalanta are going to be playing on the counters in that one, and the potential for disaster, I think, and for really a bad result for Real Madrid is there. Like, they lost at home. They had bad performances at home before in the Champions League, and they had bad results at home before. So it's not going to be something new if they lose at home. So the red card hurt Atalanta, and of course there will be also the potential for for missing out on a player like Remo Freuler, and his importance in the midfield is going to be big for Atalanta. The red card, again, the effect of the red card is really big, but Atalanta should be still holding some hope for the second leg against a side like Real Madrid, who probably, should think about the Champions League as a saviour of their season once again, just like back in 2017 and 2018, where they were not having the best of seasons, and the Champions League was pretty much the saving grace, and saved them from a trophyless season. Could the Champions League be that this time around? Although not really, they don't have the biggest of chances. But still, Real Madrid are Real Madrid, record winners of this competition, so we don't count them out just yet. From Bergamo to Mönchengladbach, or to Budapest, to be more precise, in the Ferenc Puskás Arena in Hungary, and it was Borussia Mönchengladbach hosting Manchester City there. We could say that it was, both teams being hosted in the Puskás Arena, not really, because this game doesn't count as a home game. For Mönchengladbach, Man City, I think, easily went there 1-2-0, pretty much on first gear for them in terms of speed. They didn't exactly exhaust themselves a lot by trying to play a hard game or trying to do too much. And that's what I really like about this version of Man City. Again, I said yesterday that it was a foregone conclusion that Man City would win, but I just wanted to see how Mönchengladbach would defend and how long we'll stay strong in defending. It turns out it didn't last past the half an hour, like literally on the half an hour. Bernardo Silva with a beautiful cross from João Cancelo, putting in 1-0. João Cancelo, of course, who was changed in position on the left-hand side, but still, he gives you the same effectiveness, he gives you the same efficiency every time he plays, even on the left-hand side. He's low-key one of the best fullbacks in the world at the moment. Portugal is so lucky of having such fullbacks. João Cancelo, a diverse player. You could play him in the middle, you could play him as a right back, you could play him as a left back, and you have the likes of Guerreiro and Mario Rui on the left-hand side. Portugal, strong squad for them, of course, as well. Bernardo Silva, another City player who's included in that squad too. In the second half, It was more. I mean, Borussia Mönchengladbach tried a bit in the second half. Early on, they went for it in some way early on, but then of course Man City returned back on the attack and they scored again for Gabriel Jesus in the 65th minute, making it 2-0. That's it. I think game, set and match. No way. Of course, no way Mönchengladbach would return. I mean, you don't expect that to happen. Man City now, I think, should think about the quarterfinal, like should really try and make it past the quarterfinal. Like, I think it's time for Guardiola to start thinking and stop overthinking the Champions League like he usually does. The second leg, I mean, should be easier for them to handle. It should be pretty much a walkover, maybe rest some players. I mean, you need to stomp your authority in that game anyway. Like, even if it is a done deal, you need to stomp your authority. You need to beat Mönchengladbach by maybe the biggest score you can if you want to send a message for the other clubs that you're here, you're ready to compete for the Champions League for real. For Borussia Mönchengladbach, the experience is over in the Champions League, and I said it. They probably won't make it to Europe next season, so it's going to be sad to see a side like Mönchengladbach not make it to European competition next season, but hopefully we'll see them in the following few years. Congratulations for Manchester City in advance, really, and we hope they make it past the quarterfinal, unless they face Bayern, of course. In that case, I don't want them to make it past the quarterfinal anyway. There is not just the UEFA Champions League, though, taking place in terms of European competition this week. There's the Europa League, and I know people might not rate it that much, but I think from the round of 32 onwards, it started getting it started becoming a better competition, really. And of course, the second leg of these round of 32 matches is going to be taking place this Thursday. The first of those took place actually yesterday at Wolfsberger. Lost to Tottenham away from home at the White Hart Lane 4-0. Great performance by the likes of Dele Alli and Gareth Bale, of course. Gareth Bale, who's enjoying somewhat of a revival in the last couple of weeks, of course, scoring in the first leg, beautiful goal scoring in the second leg as well. Also having, probably the best of performances against West Ham in a bad game generally for Tottenham, having the best of performances for him in person. I think Dele Alli scoring, Carlos Vinicius managing to score the fourth. Carlos Vinicius scored a brace action on the day with Dele Alli assisting and scoring. A beautiful goal, by the way, from Dele Alli. I mean, talk about Giroud scoring a scissors kick against Atleti. It was, Dele Alli scoring, I think, a better one against Wolfsberger. You can check it out yourself, really. If you don't believe me, it's better. It's better than Giroud's, hands down. Wolfsburg, of course, they have no chance. They had no chance of doing so. They completely dominated the game, just like the first leg, and Tottenham completely outdid them. Of course, the round of 16, or the round of 32, again, action, continues today on Thursday. The rest of the 15 matches are going to be played. Of course, Hoffenheim are going to be facing Molde. The first leg was 3-3 in Molde, and the second leg in Germany is going to be played. Of course, Hoffenheim, I think, have more chances to qualify if they keep it 0-0. They have a bunch of players as well missing in this game, Hoffenheim. They have a whole slew of injuries and players that are not going to be fit. Arsenal versus Benfica. This is a game, I think, that this is going to be traumatizing Arsenal fans, because they're going to look at Benfica and realise, with the souvenirs of the game against Olympiacos really still fresh in the mind, it was last season really, where they were eliminated in the same round by Olympiacos in the Emirates Stadium, and probably they should have been qualifying, and this is going to be probably with the same sort of mentality, but I still back Arsenal to go through on the away advantage of that 1-1 draw in Benfica. The game was played, of course, in Greece, by the way, in a neutral stadium, and the result 1-1 result is going to really help, I think, Arsenal in that. Also on today, Napoli faced Granada. Granada, by the way, defeated Napoli in the first leg 2-0. So that could be, I'm not going to say a shocker, but I think it's going to be a mini surprise in this competition if Granada defeats Napoli, because I think Napoli's caliber is just bigger than the Europa League at the moment. I mean, they should be in the Champions League normally, but they're down to the Europa League and they're losing to Granada, a side as well that still finding its place in Europe and finding its place in Spain, and having a better season each time in Spain. So good for them. Napoli, of course, also missing a whole slew of big players. They're missing Costas Manolas, having Lozano, Highside, Digudeme, Ospina, Victor Osimhen and Petagna, and questions over Lorenzo Insigne. So this, also Granada missed a host of players, so it's like it's Ambulance FC versus Ambulance FC in this game. Like, both teams have a lot of injured players. We'll see who goes through. I'm backing Granada, really. Maybe they will have a good game and go through with a draw, potentially, but Napoli could still do it, really. They still turned it around in the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. Villarreal facing Salzburg. Of course, the first leg ended for Villarreal 2-0. It doesn't look... and that was away from home, by the way, so the second leg is in Spain. So hopefully for them, they would make it past this round, of course. Salzburg, not doing well in the Austrian league as usual, and dominating really as you expect them. They're top of the table, but in the Europa League and in Europe, it's much different. Villarreal, scored and won the first leg. Not pretty comfortably, I would say. 2-0 away from home. It's an important result, and a game which they dominated again. So Villarreal look closer to qualification. It will need a big miracle for Salzburg to qualify. Shakhtar Donetsk face Maccabi Tel Aviv 2-0 for Shakhtar Donetsk in the first leg as well. Rangers face Antwerp. That was a dramatic victory for Gerard's side away from home, 4-3 in the later stages of the game, keeping an undefeated streak going for them. The second leg, I think, they could easily manage it and go through. They have all the assets to do it, really, and to go deep in this competition as well. Ajax hosting Lille 2-1. Ajax defeated Lille in the first leg. It's crazy to think that those two teams were in the Champions League. A couple of years ago for Lille, and Ajax were in the Champions League this season. Ajax's standards dropped so much in the last couple of years, isn't it? Ajax, of course, closer again to qualification, unless a miracle would happen for Lille. They missed a host of players as well. Sebastian Haller, Onana, the goalkeeper, of course, suspended for a year, we know that. Nusayr Mazraoui, the Moroccan right back, and Tagliafico, the left back. So it's going to be pretty depleted defensive lineup for Ajax in that game. Man United versus Real Sociedad. I think this is, a done deal. 4-0 it was for Man United away from home. Not just away from home, but in a neutral venue nonetheless, in the Juventus Stadium in Turin. And Real Sociedad, I think, done and dusted. This is a game that the United fans were afraid of, but eventually turned out that it was easier than expected. Easier than normal for Manchester United. I think, and Man United fans who were anxious about this fixture, should breathe a sigh of relief now. They defeated them 4-0 away from home at a neutral venue, as I mentioned. For them, they have a couple of injuries, of course. Pogba, Van de Beek, McTominay, Phil Jones, long term, and Edison Cavani as well. So they should be thinking about this competition seriously. Even though they are in a comfortable place to go to the Champions League from the league, in terms of league, but Man United, I think, should be winning a trophy. Or for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's pretty much a time for winning a trophy. This competition looks so, it's so important. Again, people underrate it, but I think Man United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer need it as a trophy. They need to win it. And for Solskjaer to to have a stamp of approval from the fans, for the board in particular. The board really approves him, but very much the fans still divided on him. Maybe winning this trophy would help I don't know. It's not the best trophy that the fans would hope for. Obviously, they would want the league. They would want for example, the FA Cup or the Champions League. But for the moment, the Europa League is their ceiling. So they need to win it. And go through the Champions League, stamp their way through there, and see what's going to be happening. Of course, by the way, never forget that Man United were in the Champions League and they dropped out of it anyway. Dinamo Zagreb facing Krasnodar 3-2 between the Croatian and the Russian side is going to be quite an interesting tie, really, in Zagreb. AS Roma versus Praga. The first leg ended 2-0 for Roma away from home. So I think there's no problems in there. The only injury they have is Nicolo Zaniolo long term, and is going to be probably returning in a couple of weeks as well. So against a side in Braga that have a lot of problems and a lot of injuries, so there's not much hope for them to qualify. There's not much hope really for them to qualify. Leicester City, a goalless draw in the first leg against Slavia Prague. Hopefully for them, they would make it through. I can see Leicester City making it through really in that competition, and despite the fact that also they have a long slew of injuries that I think at the moment maybe won't help them in terms of the league, but in this match in the Europa League, I still think they have enough in the tank to defeat Slavia Prague and go through, unless a draw takes place, which is going to be bad, really. A draw, of course, a goal-full draw, not a goalless draw. Bayer Leverkusen hosts Young Boys, and it was another dramatic one for the German side. 3-4 it ended for Young Boys in the first leg. Of course, I think Bayer Leverkusen saved themselves when they scored 3 goals, really, because they were 3-0 down at a certain stage. 4-3 it ended for Young Boys. It was a thrilling encounter in the first leg. We'll see how Peter Bosz would deal in the second leg as well. PSV hosting Olympiacos Piraeus. The first leg ended 4-2 for Olympiacos at home, so they just need to manage their game really in Netherlands. Dynamo Kiev travels to face Club Brugge. The first leg ended 1-1. Both sides were in Champions League. Never forget. I mean, goodness me, like it feels like a really, really long ass while ago that they were in the Champions League, but now both of them are in the Europa League and facing each other. One of them is going to be eliminated, and I'm really backing Club Brugge for some reason to make a run in this competition. I don't know why. It might bite me in the backside, but anyway, whatever. And the last game, of course, is AC Milan versus Red Star Belgrade. The first leg ended in a 2-2 draw. That won't really be very helpful for Red Star Belgrade heading into this game. Milan could really slip up. I mean, it's not a surprise if it happens. The late form for them is not exactly good. They just lost in the derby. I don't know how they're going to be dealing with this. Are they going to be focusing on the league? Are they going to be focusing on the Europa League? Are they going to just ignore the fact that they lost in the derby? Just say, you know what, it's fine. Let's end this competition. Let's just try and focus on winning the Europa League as an actual trophy rather than exhaust ourselves in the league. How Pioli is going to be thinking about it, it's up for grabs. We need to know, and we wait to know. Hopefully for Milan, it will not be much of a trouble, and they could get past Red Star Belgrade, who are always a tricky side. Let's go back to the Champions League, though, and we're going to be back from the Champions League from a different perspective completely. We're not going to be talking about any games or things but like that, but we're going to be asking the question. I think it's a burning question at the moment for all football fans, in particular probably Spanish football fans, why the Spanish clubs are so poor in the Champions League this season. And really, people would go at me like, but Real Madrid just defeated Atalanta. And I'm not talking just about the round of 16, first of all, I'm talking overall in this competition this season, and not just that, but also in the last couple of seasons really, in the 2018-19 when Liverpool won, in the 2019-20 where Bayern won, and in this season in particular. We're going to be starting, I think, from an argument and from a statement that almost everybody believes this season, that the Spanish clubs have the least of chances of going and winning the Champions League. Of course, there are now, 4 teams that entered this competition, entered it as top of their groups, really ended it as, head of their groups. Sevilla ended as the Europa League winners. Only Atletico Madrid, of course, entered second in their group, of course, because they are behind Bayern Munich, the champions. Barcelona entered top of their group. Real Madrid entered top of their group. And, Barcelona as well entered second in their group in terms of the points behind Juve. So it's not exactly a good thing since the beginning. Again, the first argument you say is the Spanish teams have the less of a chance than the other clubs in the competition to win it. Like, for example, if you say, I'm going to say a wild thing here, but I think the four Spanish teams that are left in this competition have a less of a chance combined than Man City to win it. Really, in a million years, I never thought I would say this, but the Spanish clubs this season have been so poor that it reflects on La Liga. Like, in a season where La Liga standards have dropped below normal, and I'm not saying this as disrespect for Atletico Madrid, because they are deserving leaders, I think, because they took their chances. Even their late form that is dipping, I don't think it will last for long. I think they will rejuvenate themselves and find their form back. But I'm talking about the other clubs, really. The likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona, in particular. Because when you talk about Spanish clubs in the Champions League, you mostly talk about these two. And I know Atletico Madrid comes somewhere in between. They float in there around. They have 2 finals in the last decade. They played, numerous Europa League finals. They won numerous Europa League titles. But I think if you look at them from a Champions League perspective, they played 3 finals. They lost to 3 of them, and 2 of them against Real Madrid as well. So you look at it from numbers and from figures perspective. The 4 clubs in the Champions League, the 4 Spanish clubs in the Champions League, all finished second except for Real Madrid. And even Real Madrid, although they finished first, they finished 10 points. I mean, Real Madrid finished with 10 points. Atletico Madrid finished with 9 points. Imagine that. Like, Atletico Madrid finished second in their group, 1 point behind, 1 point less than Real Madrid finished top of their group. And that shows you how Real Madrid have been poor in their group. Like, the first 2 games, really the first 3 games for Real Madrid were an absolute dreadful nightmare. Even their win against Inter at home was marred by 2 goals and was almost a draw, and almost at a certain point, Inter Milan gathered 3 points. Barcelona in their group, they looked so good against sides like Dynamo Kiev, like Ferencváros, but against Juve, even if they won the first leg 2-0 in Turin, the second match, they were completely drubbed by Juventus 3-0. And by extension, of course, they were dropped by PSG 4-1, and we don't need to get into that a lot. For Sevilla in their group, they finished second behind Chelsea. They were dropped by Chelsea 4-0 at home. And, generally they had, again, a hard time defeating the likes of Krasnodar and Rennes, particularly Krasnodar. I mean, they needed a saviour in Yusuf An-Nesyri, and they needed late goals in both games, home and away, and they made actually a comeback against Krasnodar in the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan when they defeated them 4-2. They actually made a comeback from 2-0 down to go 4-2 up. And it just shows you how poor they were performing this season. And then, of course, Atletico Madrid. And Atletico Madrid's league form and Champions League form are in contrast. And I said that yesterday, and I'm going to repeat it again if I wasn't clear enough. It's a complete contrast between the form they have in the league and the form they have in the Champions League. So when you end up with 3 teams out of the 4 qualifying in second places, when most of the sort of favoritism went toward them going on top, you have a problem. And even Real Madrid, who finished top of their group and who could still somehow go through and, make a great run in the Champions League, like, nobody's going to be forgetting this one. Nobody's going to be forgetting that they had a bad time in the group stage, and at one point we were talking about them being in the Europa League. It was a real possibility, by the way, that Real Madrid are going to be in the Europa League. And it's, it's somewhat of a crazy suggestion at the time, but it was a reality. Like, it was a real possibility. They got through that. I think they will get through the round of 16 unless they shoot themselves in the foot once again and the inconsistencies prop up once more for Real Madrid, but I think they would go through probably. For the other clubs, for Barcelona, who of course were dropped by PSG, let me be clear here, no chance of making a comeback. Just forget about it. Barcelona fans, sorry if you are dreaming of a remontada, dreaming of another amazing legendary comeback away from home. No, you're not getting this. If you lose 4-1 in that fashion, in that manner, at the Camp Nou, there's never a chance in a million years that you would come back. For Sevilla, it's 50-50. For Sevilla, I would say it's 50-50. It's still, there's an outside chance maybe that they would qualify, but I think Borussia Dortmund should be more than able to seal the deal. They don't exactly defend very well, but they score. And against a side like Sevilla, who are really one of the best defences in Europe, and you score 3 against them away from home, it's a good sign that you can score. And someone like Erling Haaland, of course, is not going to be shy in front of the goal. He's just going to ruffle it. And he's going to be scoring goals for fun. So, what you're left with, realistically, in this competition of going through, you're left with Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Real Madrid, I think, they got 50%, 60% of the way through. Atletico Madrid, though, they have even harder work to do against Chelsea, because they will have to play a game that they don't like. They will have to play an offensive game, and boy, does Diego Simeone hate offensive game. We saw just in the weekend how bad Diego Simeone could attack, because Simeone tried to attack against Levante, and he was forced to do so because he was 1-0 down pretty much early on in the game. And of course, he put everything forward and he lost the game 2-0 because Levante defended well. So against a side like Chelsea, who are, I think, have all the opportunities and all the tools and the assets to go forward and score and hit on the break and hit on the counter and hit on the spaces that they're going to find behind the Atletico Madrid defense, who's going to be going forward. Because Atletico know how to defend deep, know how to defend low, but they don't know how to defend high up the pitch. That's just a reality of the fact is. If you want an evidence, just go back and watch the game against Bayern Munich in the first match of the group stage. You would know how bad Atletico Madrid can defend high up the pitch. They don't have the sort of bouncing back ability in the midfield to rebound quickly. In the midfield in particular, because on the wings, yeah, it's fine. They have Carrasco, they have Trippier, they have Llorente, fine. But if you're defending high up the pitch, and with the new formation of Thomas Tuchel setting now for his side in this 3-4-2-1, something similar to what Atalanta is doing, it's impossible for Atletico to defend high up the pitch. Any long ball, any great pass from Jorginho, Kovacic, Kante, it doesn't matter, Mason Mount, this is going to be putting any attacker for Chelsea forward, and they're going to be having opportunities to score. So, realistically speaking, it looks like Real Madrid are the only club out of the 4 who's going to be going through to the Champions League quarterfinal, and this is going to be reflecting bad on La Liga. And, La Liga is already been 4 or 5 years now losing its value. Even with Messi and Ronaldo both being there, it was losing its value because, aside from Real Madrid and Barcelona, no other clubs is appearing on Europe. Even with Sevilla winning a bunch of Europa Leagues, really that's not a big standard because for most of those, they drop out of the Champions League to win those. Certainly, that happened in 2016. They dropped out of the Champions League to win the Europa League eventually. That won't happen this season because if they lose out to Dortmund, they won't drop to the Europa League. They won't have a chance to win it, obviously. So, as a final point, I would say, the Spanish clubs really have... for Barcelona, it's a turnover. It's a transitional period. I think they don't have... We cannot have an argument against them to bash them. But for Atletico Madrid, top of La Liga, Real Madrid, a 13-time European champions, they still have that charisma in them somehow. They had a bad year. And for Sevilla, I think, they need to upgrade their standard. They need to forget that they play in the Europa League. They need to forget that they are a record-breaking 6-time Europa League winners. They need to forget that. The Champions League is a different piece of work. The Champions League is a different game, is a different level for Sevilla. They need to realise that. Overall, if I'm going to rate the Spanish club's chances of going through to the Champions League quarterfinal, I would say Barcelona 5%, 1% even. 0. You know what? 0% chance. Sevilla 20 to 30. They could score, but they would concede for sure. On the other side, Atletico Madrid, they have a lot of homework to do against Chelsea. They need to change their style. They need to be more effective, which is something that Diego Simeone isn't. So probably 30 to 40 maybe, even with that 30-40%, because they're still a decent team. And for Real Madrid, it's 60 because they should be managing the game at Madrid. And I know this might be wrong, but they should be managing the game against Madrid, against Atalanta in Madrid. Anyway, that's it from me. I was with the HOD of the PSP. Thanks for watching this episode. Again, celebrating this milestone of 80 episodes by liking, sharing, subscribing to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these podcast episodes and all of the content on the channel. Follow us on social media, PSP on Twitter, PageSiteWorld on Instagram, and listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. And that's it from me. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.